Hey, what's going on, parents? Welcome back to the Parent Podcast. Happy Tuesday to you. I hope your week is starting well. If we haven't got the chance to meet, my name is Will. I'm the lead student pastor here at Hope Fellowship. And I want to take a second because we are in the Halloween season. So I want to take less than 10 minutes, maybe, and just talk through how can parents lead through Halloween? What are some things you can do? What are some mindsets you can have? A couple years ago, I was in California visiting some people, and some friends of mine over there, or this couple that I know, they identify themselves, or the wife identifies herself as a witch. And one thing that she said to me was, Christmas used to not always be a Christian holiday. It was a pagan holiday. And she was saying this is like a good thing. And it was a pagan holiday that was used to worship blah, 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 blah. And then Christians got in there and they Jesused it up. And now it's used to celebrate Jesus, and Christians took it over. And I was like, you're dang right we did. And we're coming for Halloween next, right? That's what we're doing. No, I really think we don't have to avoid Halloween. We don't have to run from Halloween. And on the same side, or on the other side, I don't think we should necessarily lean 1,000% into everything that is celebrated at Halloween. So again, that kind of brings us back to the question of what do parents do with Halloween? I think we can make it simple through Scripture, and then I want to kind of break down go through some do's and don'ts. The short end is, if we can't avoid it, how can we get Jesus in it? If we can't avoid something, then how can we make the time of the year more Christ-centered? Maybe not in the culture's mind, but in our family's mind and in our family's intention. How can we do that? Because more than likely, your kids aren't trick-or-treating anymore, or maybe they're taking younger siblings. The chances are is that they're going to be going to Halloween parties, and they're going to go to, when they go to college, they're going to go to Halloween parties. So what are mindsets, what are ways that you can help them grow now so that later they can make better decisions because of what we've done intentionally as parents and guardians and aunts, uncles, grandmas, and all of that, leading the next generation. Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. By testing, that's a big word there. By testing, you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Testing. If we don't, if we try to avoid conversations about Halloween and spiritual topics in general, then I think we are stifling the barometer, the pH levels of our students, even understanding how to react, how to understand the spiritual side of the world. Because this season, everything is spiritual. Everybody is spiritual, but they're spiritual in the wrong direction. So what do we do with that? How can we do that? How can we be in the world and not of the world? And again, leads to this ever evolving question, not evolving in the sense of the answer, but evolving in the situation that it comes up is, how can I teach my student to be in the world but not of the world? The first thing, let me talk just 3 very quick don'ts that I think, this isn't necessarily a rule of law or whatever, but 3 things that I would say would be good don'ts for the Halloween season. The first don't is, don't just try to ignore it. People fill in the gaps of understanding. If there's a gap, that gap will be filled in somewhere by something, by someone. So as parents, let's be the first ones there to fill in that gap with an understanding of what Halloween really is, what it celebrates, the not great part of that, and then what to do with that. So don't just try to ignore it. Number 2, don't lean in with demonic powers. Don't lean in with demonic powers. I can't tell you I've ever seen a horror film, or really a movie in general, that has celebrated the Christ-like powers. If somebody's watching a horror film specifically that has ghosts and demons and that kind of stuff, possession, what is being celebrated is the power of evil. So what I would encourage, and again, I would never try to say if you don't, you're a bad parent. What I would encourage is saying not leaning in with demonic powers. If people like to be scared and see whatever, watch zombie movies or something, don't lean less into Satan has great power and pull away from that where you can. The third one, which is fairly, it could go unsaid. I just feel like, hey, well, I'll just say this. Don't allow your students to dress provocatively. Just don't allow that. Now, vast majority of parents don't. And a lot of you are like, yeah, I would never let my student do that. When that is a rule, if you ever come in contact with that, you have a young daughter, young guy, because guys can dress not great too. And so when you come in contact with, don't just shut them down either. Always use opportunity, or use that as an opportunity to discuss the why behind that. Now, moving into like, what are some things you can do? All of this is circled around conversations that you can have, because I think, again, this time of the year is a great time to have spiritual conversations. So what are some good conversations that you can have with your student? And maybe this is even a time that you're like, I don't know anything about this or much, but this is a good time that you can learn about this. Number one, the question, what does evil reveal? What does evil reveal? This is a good question to bring up around your student, because evil in the world shows the need for good in the world. And who is the good in the world? It's our God. It's Jesus. Like, what does evil reveal? Why do bad things happen to good people? That's a question or why do good things happen to, why do bad things happen to good people? That's a question that pops in our mind all the time. But then even we can take that and keep expanding, because when we say bad things happen, we're really saying there's evil and brokenness in the world. And why does this happen? One of the things that we can pull from this as parents is saying this shows the need for our God. This shows our need for God. This shows our need for God. Evil in the world shows our need for God. So number one, what does evil reveal? Number two, has God convicted you on this topic? I think this is a great time to bring up conviction, to bring up like, hey, have you prayed about watching that movie? Have you prayed about like what's going on at this party? Have you prayed about it? Who are you wanting to dress up as? Because this is another thing. What we dress up as, that's what we're celebrating. So again, if you go back to that, don't let your students dress provocatively. Like what are they celebrating? What we want to dress up as, we're semi-emulating, So is there an opportunity to have a conversation with your student about conviction? Ephesians 6:12. You know this when I start reading it, it'll come to mind. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unforeseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. This is a great time to remind your student, hey, we don't fight flesh and blood. That's not the biggest fight that we're up against. The biggest fight that God fights on our behalf is the unforeseen world who's trying to take down as many people from this world as that unforeseen evil can. And what does that unforeseen evil reveal? It reveals our need for God. And what does God show us? What convictions? Like, how often do we use that word? I barely use that word. Like, what convictions do we have? And are we following those convictions? And what convictions could we have if we just think to pray or ask about it? The last one is talking about fear. Let's talk about fear. That's not really setting up a conversation, but because I want to say these two things. What is your biggest fear? This is a great time to talk about fear, right? Get fear out in the open. It's really hard to be scared of the dark when you got a lot of light bulbs. Let's put in some light bulbs, which is just bringing to light what our students are afraid of. You can say, what are you most afraid of in your friend group? What's something that makes you nervous about in school? And not just like I'm nervous to get in front of people, but like, man, it'd be cool. It'd be amazing if God can kind of take that conversation, find a core fear of like, I'm afraid of failure. Me personally, I'm afraid of abandonment, and what scares you the most about the future? This is like, this is a spooky time of the season. Oh, it's scary, whatever. What are you afraid of? It can help you bring up conversations that maybe at other times of the year just seem way out of the blue, but it's Halloween and all this stuff is going to be around anyways. So why don't we make the most of it and see what God does and be intentional through it. Hopefully some of this is helpful. And by no means would I ever say don't celebrate or don't have fun when the rest of the world's having fun. I think we can just be wise about how we do that and how we can bring Christ into it in all aspects. So that's just some quick tips. I love you. If I can do anything for you, if you have any other questions, always feel free to reach out to me. And remember, you can do this. You're not alone. God is with you, and so are we. Have a great week.